Welcome to Dirty Secrets University, where tuition is the cost of a free subscription, and hitting the bell will set reminders so you never have to miss class again. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Dirty Secrets University. Today's class is going to be about chords and chord stacking. I'm super excited to share this with you guys because I've put this concept on a piece of paper, so it's very visual, and it really helped me kind of lock things in its relativity to one another when we're talking about scales and music theory and, chord stacking. This is how I like to get my chords started. It's going to be very basic, fundamental chord stacking. And once you have your chords mapped out, you can play around with augmenting, diminishing, just like voicing in general for your chords. So we're going to be working in C major scale. I chose C major scale just out of convenience, but this will apply to all scales. Once we have our scale written out, you're going to assign each note with a number in position that it's in relative to the scale. We have our C, which is in first position, D, 2, pretty straightforward. When we're talking chords, we stack the first, the third, the fifth, the seventh, and we can choose to continue if you want with the 9th and the 11th. So right away, since we have our positions locked to our scale, we can go ahead and map that out. So if we take our third position and stack it on top of our first position, we're already getting the start of our triad. So we're gonna go ahead and take the fifth as well. So right here, we have our triad. And because the G is in our fifth position, we know that this row is going to be our perfect fifth. And once we have our first triad locked in, we can go ahead and write the scale starting from the E position straight through. Amazing. We'll do the same for G. So we have built all of our triads in 3.5 seconds. So I'm just going to play these for you. If we want to add our 7th chord and our 9th chord, we just follow the same pattern. So we know that our 7th is going to be B. 7, 8, 9. So our 9th is going to be D. And you can keep kind of building the chord up this way. And it's actually an interesting concept because if you keep stacking enough intervals, eventually you're going to play every single note of the scale, but just in a different frequency range. We also know that the 6th note in the major scale will be the relative minor, which is super handy because then we already have our minor keys mapped out. So it'll be starting on the A note. So this is what I was saying, that everything is relative just depending on your starting position. So this can either be your 1, your 2, your 3, your 4, your 5, your 6, your 7, just depending if you're playing in your minor key or a major key. So once we've established our notes, this will also give us our chord type. So the chord type structures that major scales follow will be as such. So it'll be a major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Since we have this mapped out and we know that the 6th note of the major scale will be its relative minor, we will be starting on a minor key and we can just move up the scale as follows. So in your minor scales, you will start with a minor chord followed by a diminished chord, major, minor, minor, major, major, and the cycle continues. So since we were talking about different placements, this is technically the 6th mode of the major scale. So since we have 7 notes in the scale, we have 7 different opportunities which present themselves as modes in a scale in which we can play. So the first mode will be the starting C position of the scale as we all know it. But if we start on the third mode of that same scale, which will give us something like this. So you can see how if you play around with modes, you can really add interest to a song, especially if you're working in a C major scale and you're like, well, I don't really want my landing note to be C or my root note. So you can always play the C major scale in a different mode, and that'll add interest to the listener. And it'll be like a new fundamental grounding note of your song. From this point on, you have it all mapped out and you're free to play around with chord progressions. As always, thank you for being here. I hope that you learned something, and I'll catch you in the next one. Class dismissed.